Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. There is a coordinated attack coming from the Washington Post. This is premeditated, prearranged, and they are dripping out pieces on a schedule. Why? Because this most recent one references Combat Craig over and over again as though the man is still alive. The man has passed away in September and we are in November. So this is not a story that was written a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. This is a story that was in the bottle waiting to dump out after they've coordinated their attack. Who is behind this is curious. Not quite sure why this agenda is being pushed so hard, why this narrative is being spun so heavily. Even The Guardian has rejected the Washington Post's viewpoints and came through with some facts. I have came through with facts as well regarding this. The IG for the VA has also stated facts regarding the amount of fraud being minuscule in comparison to the amount of claims actually being filed. The reality is that there are many, many veterans out there that are not service connected. There's a good amount that are. About 30% of veterans are service connected for VA disability compensation. That's legal. This is put into place by Congress for veterans who have served the United States of America in a other than dishonorable fashion, and the Washington Post wants to shame veterans for getting the benefits that they earned through service. We didn't make the rules. The rules are there. It's legal. It is lawful. We are being shamed for utilizing them. We are, quite frankly, being shamed if it's anything other than a combat injury, which is sad because that's not what these benefits are. There's a whole host of them, and quite frankly, every single day you're in the military, you are training for combat, whether you're in it or not. So in any case, there's another story here. We're going to share that. Before we jump into it, though, I want to throw on a special thank you to Salvatore Latero 8236. Salvatore, thank you so much for the super comment, super chat thing. I really do appreciate your support very, very much. I truly do. Thank you. All right, so let's jump into this story. The Washington Post's news story that actually came out November 5th, 2025. And this one, again, this is a drip campaign, if you will, a coordinated effort against veterans. So with that, the headline here is the unregulated industry that coaches veterans to what? To pile on benefits. Okay, the unregulated industry that coaches veterans to pile on benefits. All right, so it moves from there and it goes into a bunch of snippets, headlines, or titles from things from YouTube and from TikTok. And it's all these different catchphrasey headlines that are put out there by all kinds of different people. The CivDiv, Combat Craig, who else? Veteran Claims Insider, or VA Claims Insider. So there's a whole host of these individuals' thumbnails up there that state things such as 100% disability benefits. You don't want to miss this. How a 10% rating for tinnitus could be worth 100%. Hack your way to 100% VA claim. So there's all these different things on there to paint the picture that it is a fraudulent thing. When really the reality is many people don't understand how any of this stuff works, and they could actually be rated at 100% if they applied for everything that they're actually legally allowed to file for. So you have to paint the picture for individuals so they can see. And I will tell you this, if you start off with a 10, 20, 30% overall rating from the VA, the course of time goes on, you could develop secondary conditions, and those conditions could get worse, which warrant increases. And guess what? There's nothing illegal about that. But the Post wants you to believe that somebody's out there doing something shameful and illegal. at the end of the day, all of us can paint the picture of, hey, this is what 100% looks like. Here's some examples of how people get to the appropriate rating, whatever that may be, a 50, a 70, a 100%. And this is what that looks like. Here's some examples. At the end of the day, the VA has to look at your evidence, connecting your conditions to your time in service or to other conditions as secondary conditions, and go through that whole process. And you would go through a C&P examination, and medical evidence all has to line up. Believe me, there are probably more denials than approvals from the VA. So let's jump into this, and I'm going to start it off like this. I am personally a former VA accredited veteran service officer. I ran a team of accredited veteran service representatives. I've sat on multiple committees and commissions and boards from the local municipality level all the way to the state level. I've been in the veterans benefits arena, right, as a paid person for more than a decade prior to doing anything on YouTube. I was the director for a nonprofit helping homeless and at risk of becoming homeless veterans. I worked with the VA and different grants from the VA to include grant per diem and others like supportive services for veterans families, the SSVF. Worked hand in hand with the VA for compensated work therapies. I've worked with HUD-VASH. I've helped start up an employment initiative at the state level to help veterans, reservists, National Guard members, spouses, and dependents find work. So I've been in this world for a long time, and I think that that's why I'm so frustrated with these claims. And back to the title of this story, there are a lot of people out there sharing information. Some are more credible than others. Like myself, I would be considered a more credible just because of my background, right? Versus I did my own claim and that's all I did. I never had any sort of anything else other than I did my own claim and I helped a couple people that I knew, right? That person would fall in the not as credible arena. So just to throw that part out there. So it really bothers me. So anyway, let's jump into this. I know I've been rambling for quite some time. So he wears a straw cowboy hat, flashes fistfuls of cash, and has attracted nearly 200,000 YouTube subscribers with his secret strategies for winning big with VA disability claims. The Gulf War veterans pitch to fellow vets for just $99.95 a year. His boot camp tutorials will teach them how to supercharge your VA claim rating and your paycheck. Okay, so they're talking about Combat Craig, rest his soul, rest in peace, all of that. That really wasn't his name, and there's a whole other thing going on with all of that, which I will stay out of. But the reality is that because this is a canned story that's just supposed to drip out at a specific time frame, here we are, right? So they don't even mention that he has passed away, to my knowledge. So we'll see if they do as we read through this. Meet Combat Craig, a grizzled and plain-spoken online influencer who has helped drive a booming unregulated industry of for-profit firms that coach former service members to take advantage of the Department of Veterans Affairs' $193 billion disability compensation system and take a cut for themselves. Okay, so there's a few different things to unpack in there. Number one, I think of all the people that they could really point to taking advantage of people, probably not Combat Craig with his $99 a year subscription that he had. Again, he's passed away. But they could have focused on the pay me 5 times the amount of your increase and go from there. So there is that. And those individuals, because it's an amount based on what they increase you, those entities are actually incentivized to get you the highest rating that they possibly can. Therefore, it increases their pay. Therefore, there is a higher element or temptation of fraud. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, right? So here, with our organization, Evidence-Based VA Claims, again, former VSO, running a team, I understand it. We don't base it on how much your increase is. We will coach you through your specific situation so you can understand all of the nuance with the VA. And let me throw this out there. Why are any of these things even out there, right? Different organizations to help veterans? Because there is a lack of paid for by the government resources. There's a lack of free accredited resources that are capable and competent. Fix that and you fix the problem. So the problem is not veterans. The problem is really not the entities that are helping to teach and educate veterans, except for the ones that charge 5 times. That's exorbitant. That shouldn't happen. But the reality is that these entities are a result of the problem. The problem is a lack of resources. It's that simple. The other thing that they talked about here that they're basically leveraging in on is the taking advantage of the Department of Veterans Affairs disability compensation system. Unless it's fraud, nobody's taking advantage of anything with the Department of Veterans Affairs. What they're doing is they're realizing I have a set of conditions that manifested during my time in service or are a result of my time in service in some way, and I am legally allowed to file for this benefit. The Washington Post would have it the other way and say, look, even though you can, you shouldn't. Which is pretty ridiculous. Shaming veterans. Shame on the Washington Post. Let's move on. Like many other ex-military entrepreneurs in the thriving claims industry, Combat Craig, again, rest in peace, rest in peace, R.I.P. To you. So boasts that he can help virtually any veteran obtain a 100% disability rating from the VA. Influencers hype the 100% threshold as the holy grail because it pays out about $50,000 a year tax-free and comes with no cost health care and a host of other perks. Thousands in the Hundo 100% club. You can do it too. Combat Craig's website promises. Do I agree with the messaging? No, I don't agree with the messaging. I do agree with the messaging of be properly rated. And if that's 50%, it's 50%. If it's 10%, it's 10%. If it's 0, it's 0. If it's 100, it's 100. If it's 100 plus special monthly compensation, if it's straight up special monthly compensation, then be properly rated. And do not let anybody shame you to shortchange yourself. We should be looking for ways to encourage veterans to file for the conditions in which they could file for. I also am a firm believer that disability compensation should be changed to maybe just compensation. Okay. Disability ratings of 100% once were granted to only the most incapacitated veterans, typically those whose war wounds precluded them from taking civilian jobs. Okay, so there's 2 different rating schedules. 100% is the vanilla kind of rating schedule. Pretty much everybody, that's what you fit on. Then, for those that are seriously impacted, the most severe, they're not on the 0 to 100% rating schedule. And the 100% rating schedule makes you think that 100% is the maximum that there is. And that is not true. Special monthly compensation is that world. Just want to throw that out there. All right. So, but today, the maximum rating is the most commonly held one by far. Okay. So here's some numbers. there's about 16 million-ish veterans in the U.S. Of that 16 million veterans, 30% are actually service-connected for something. So already you can say only 30% of veterans have a service-connected disability rating, meaning 70% do not. So by far, veterans are not service-connected for anything. So that's the number one. Number two, of that 30% rating, 65% of ratings are 50% or below. And if you take into account, let's talk about TDIU since we're here for a minute. 100% through TDIU, total disability individual unemployability. It's about 7% of the 30%. So, all right, let's move on. Of the roughly, this is what they say, of the roughly 6 million veterans receiving disability payments last year, about 1.5 million were designated 100% disabled. Nearly ninefold increase since 2021. The most recent available VA figures show. Okay, so let's throw this out there. 2021, great. Ninefold increase, wonderful. There's multitude of reasons. One, we'll just throw out the PACT Act for the heck of it. PACT Act gets enacted, some additional conditions are there for folks, including Vietnam era folks, by the way. Number two, education, awareness, thanks to individuals like me, not just me, obviously, more, your neighbor, for example, sharing information. Good. So the education piece is in learning that this stuff's even available, and then the reduction of stigma. As the stigma lowers, more and more people start to step forward. That's a good thing. Also, as conditions linger throughout life, they don't tend to get better. They tend to get worse. Thus, increases tend to happen. We have an aging population in veterans. That aging population also plays a factor in those increases. In addition, as conditions get worse, oftentimes, secondary conditions arise. So let's move on. So scrolling through some of these graphs that they have, military service is often dangerous, and VA officials say many veterans hold 100% ratings because of disfiguring injuries or severe illnesses they suffered while serving the United States. The toll from 2 decades of war in Afghanistan and Iraq, they say, is responsible for much of the trend toward higher awards. But a Washington Post investigation found that for-profit consultants like Combat Craig are compounding the spike in ratings with manipulative tactics. Many urge veterans to stretch the truth about their ailments and claim hard-to-disprove conditions that VA is unlikely to challenge, such as migraines. I'll tell you, migraines are absolutely horrendous. Like 2 nights ago, I was thinking to myself, you know what? The day in the life of a disabled veteran, right? People don't know. This is what they see. They see, come out, have some energy, whatever. But there I was in the middle of the night trying to sit up as straight as I could in bed and twisting my neck and putting my face against the wall because it was cold and trying to get my horrific migraine to subside after Motrin and aspirin and everything else. And, it's not a fun thing. So, whatever. I mean, look, if you have a condition like migraines that manifested during your time in service, or you have a TBI or something like that might be contributing to it, or maybe your MOS or AFSC was fuel sniffer, right? Maybe that, I don't know, talk with your doctor. Maybe that contributed to your migraines. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on to what they're saying here. VA is unlikely to challenge, and I don't know. Are they unlikely to challenge? I mean, it seems to me like they challenge everything. Challenge such as migraines, erectile dysfunction, and PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, so whatever, same thing. By promising higher ratings and bigger disability checks, they have persuaded millions of veterans to pay as much as $20,000 for their services. Thank goodness they mentioned the predatory folks out there. Yeah, don't pay that. Don't pay 5 times the amount of your increase. It is a ridiculous amount of money. Try what I say. Go try to find a free accredited resource that is capable and competent. Number one, if you can't find a capable and competent free resource, I am a former VA accredited representative. No longer, but I was for 5+ years, and I was in the veteran benefits world for more than a decade. We have a former VA rater on the team, and this is what we do. Okay, moving on. Unlike, and look, this all goes back to my saying, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong. Now, look, unfortunately, there has to be a cost to make the whole ball roll, but not 20,000. That's stupid. And I'm sorry if you've ever done that. And I get it. You didn't have any other options, which is why we created evidence-based VA claims. Moving on. Unlike non-profit veteran service organizations, these businesses are not accredited by the VA. Yet the industry helps veterans secure compensation from VA for hundreds of thousands of disabilities, according to current and former company and government officials. While many of the businesses provide legitimate services, some who have worked in the industry say it is, I don't even know what that is, steeped in hucksterism and fraud. Hucksterism. Okay. Moving on. And this is, and I look, be careful who you don't have to work with us. You can do it yourself. Okay? We try to give you all the tools that you need to understand how the claims process works, blah, 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 blah. Try to find a free accredited resource, and if you can, great. If you can't, we're happy to help. If you don't come to us, then be very careful with who you work with. Some of these people are just simply relying on whatever AI spits out. Some of these people have only worked on their own claim for 20 years and they think that they're an expert. There is so much more to it. So make sure that you are getting capable and competent help with your situation. All right, so here we go. A quotation here. I had to convince the vets they had PTSD, said Tyson Balam, 33, a former soldier who worked as a senior intake specialist for Veterans Guardian, a North Carolina-based disability claims company from 2021 to 2023. The vets would tell me, I don't have that symptom. I had to tell them, to get your rating higher, you have to have these symptoms. The surge in 100% ratings is primarily driven by a younger generation of veterans who served in the aftermath of 9/11 attacks. A post-analysis of the U.S. Census Bureau data found that employed veterans between ages of 26 and 35 account for the biggest increase in ratings between 70 and 100%. And I'll throw this in there. The younger generation is more informed and there's less stigma and all of that than say the World War II generation, right? The World War II generation obviously was not as privy to what's even available. The Vietnam era walked away. The Korean era was not aware of what sort of benefits would even be available. It wasn't until the internet really that it really came out and made it very available for people. The stigma has lowered so much. A World War II veteran, for example, would never, ever, 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 especially when they were young, right? Maybe now, if they're still alive, maybe they would. But this was a tough generation. This was you don't talk about it. You move on, and I mean, not that correlates with strength, but I mean it's. In their minds, that was the definition that they had to stand by, right? I mean, my grandfather, he was a Korean War veteran, and this was not the generation of, you know what, I'm going to go get that checked out. Or, you know, I don't think something's quite right, you know, or these things are bothering me. I think I got some sort of some mental things going. No, there was none of that. Now, as the stigma lifts and is pushed down and some more awareness, those people are starting to come into the fold. Thank goodness, because they should, and they should be compensated for the injuries that they've received from their time in service, right? So let's move on. A high disability designation usually does not mean that a veteran is physically unable to work. Most disabled veterans under 65 still earn paychecks from their full-time jobs, the data shows. Yes, that is true. That is very true. The question is, did their conditions inhibit their ability to earn at their maximum capacity? And not just today, but over their lifetime. Are they going to continue to be an income-producing part of society? Are they going to continue to go to work every day up until age X due to their service-connected conditions? The answer is probably no. So, and I'm going to throw this out there. It is not just to compensate for earnings loss. It's also for your quality of life diminishing some, right? Moving on. Some 100% ratings deemed permanent and total, or P&T, in the lingo of veterans, swapping strategies online. Okay. P&T is also said at the VA. It's also said at the accredited veteran service offices. It's also said at the accredited veteran service organizations. So it's not some slang of veterans swapping strategies online. But to paint the picture and to keep the narrative, I love how they do that. The designation is especially coveted for veterans because it means VA usually can't take back the award, even if their condition improves. Now, I'll tell you this, most people who warrant a 100% permanent and total designation are excited because now they have some additional benefits for their family, their spouse, their dependent children, and it makes life a little bit easier. How about that? And look, I get it. There's some dirtballs out there, right? There's some people out there that exploit it and make it seem like it's something. And, I've seen online people celebrating their 100% in frivolous ways. And look, you can't take everything you see at face value, right? Sure, somebody might be walking around, yeah, hit the 100. Okay, good for you. The next minute, they could be zoned down on the couch. They might be an unproductive component of society due to their condition. We don't know what's happening the other 23 and a half hours other than that 30-minute video that they did. So do I agree with people flaunting? No, I think it's stupid and you shouldn't. But it gives these organizations out there the fuel that they want to write articles like this. All right. VA accredits about 15,000 agents, from lawyers to large nonprofits, to file claims on behalf of veterans at no cost. Okay. The country's most prominent veteran service organizations, nonprofit groups such as the American Legion and Disabled American Veterans, provide step-by-step guidance to hundreds of thousands of clients on how to maximize their ratings by claiming as many disabilities as possible. The other way to phrase that is, look, you should file for everything that you have that would rate as service-connected or as secondary. You absolutely should. Why wouldn't you? Don't not file for the conditions that you have. That's stupid. Do not leave your benefits on the table. You served, you earned, move forward. Simple. The Washington Post likes to make it sound like, well, that's illegal in some way. So in other words, they're shaming veterans again. Moving on. The accredited organizations and the unaccredited industry view each other as adversaries. I don't. And I mean, I'm not going to look, if you're watching this and you're a subscriber, we are one big entity together, and we have made Veterans Info Tap into, well, quite frankly, the largest by views. We have more views than any other channel that is specific to VA disability compensation stuff and veteran stuff. We have the most views, and we are a little bit behind on subscribers because we just started almost 3 years ago. But we will be surpassing Combat Craig's number here probably early next year, 2026. So anyway, we are the largest by views, largest channel. And I don't view accredited organizations as adversaries. One team, one fight. I tell people, go find a free accredited representative to help you. Do it. If you can't, won't, doesn't, whatever, can't find something, they're not capable, competent, and you can't do anything else, because guess what? The United States is a big country. There's a lot of missed spaces when it comes to free accredited representation. If you need help, we're here to help you. Evidence-based VA claims, and we'll do that for you, and we'll talk you through it, and we'll figure you out. So, no, that's a lie. Both sides are lobbying Congress to pass bills that would make it easier for them to retain veterans as clients at the expense of the other. Yet, they take similar approach when helping veterans file disability claims by touting the earning potential of minor everyday elements, including hay fever, hemorrhoids, and high blood pressure. And it's funny because hay fever is what is it? I always get it mixed up. It's either sinusitis or rhinitis. It's one of those. Is hay fever. Hay fever, I'm typing it in now. Hay fever is, well, sinusitis. Because now I'm just going crazy. So it's one of them. So yes, it's rhinitis. There you go. So hay fever, allergic rhinitis. Okay, so what's funny is that they're talking about hay fever, which is rhinitis, and high blood pressure, which is hypertension. Those two are both presumed conditions for, guess what? The Vietnam War, if you were Agent Orange exposed, which is a presumptive just for being there, and hay fever due to your time in the Gulf Wars. So they're now targeting combat veterans. Combat veterans are targeted in the Washington Post article. Okay, so they're targeting everything, every single veteran, and by default, every single spouse who would receive. Here's the example. If they're talking smack here about high blood pressure, for example, what they're essentially saying is, Vietnam veteran, you should not be rated for high blood pressure, hypertension. Therefore, if you die of a heart attack, your spouse should not get dependency indemnity compensation because your high blood pressure probably led to your heart attack, and, well, we're not going to recognize that. If the Washington Post and anybody who actually believes this garbage were to enact any of this, that is what they are saying. They are saying that directly to you, the Vietnam veteran, with their high blood pressure comment. It's just so dirty and shameful. I can't even stand it. All right, moving on. VA itself encourages the same thing. During the Biden administration, VA stepped up a public relations campaign to reach out to veterans in person and online to urge them to claim their earned benefits. The department has done little to deter or police fraud. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. Good on the VA for stepping it up. Good on the VA for trying to get the word out. There are far too many veterans who don't understand that this is part of their benefits package, and they leave it on the table. So good for the VA for doing it. And shame, again, on the Washington Post. Now, for the fraud piece, I mean, according to the IG, like any other large government program, there's going to be fraud. The amount of fraud is minuscule, and we are prosecuting people to the fullest extent. So there's that. The Post presented VA officials with a detailed summary of this article and a list of questions, most of which they declined to answer. In an email, Pete Kay, the department's press secretary, assailed the quotation here, the radical liberal Washington Post for its shoddy brand of liberal activist journalism. Another quotation, when VA sees signs of fraud or suspicious behavior, it works with the appropriate law enforcement authorities to protect taxpayers, veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors. Pete Kay said, but we also want to make sure veterans have choices, particularly if they aren't happy with whatever options might be available to them for free. But there's a problem, right? There's a problem because it's evident that there's a problem because the Washington Post has a problem with this. Why does the Washington Post have a problem? Why are they so hell-bent on pushing this narrative and really exacerbating and stretching the truth? You talk about fraudulent behavior. This is the example. The Washington Post is doing it. They're taking everything and stretching it and bending the truth and bending it in a way to line up with their narrative. And again, this is a regurgitated old message now for like the fourth time, and it's all it's all pre-done. I mean, they would have known Combat Craig is dead. But they wrote this probably in September. Who knows when? Maybe this was, who knows? I would love to get some insight. All right, let's move on. So the VA continues, he added, VA continues to examine this issue, and in the meantime, we are working to make it easier for veterans to access VA benefits and services they have earned, so people don't need third parties to get what our nation owes them. Over the past 25 years, veterans have flooded the government with an escalating number of claims, usually for multiple ailments. The Post reported in October last year, more than a third of veterans received compensation for an average of 7 conditions, up from 2.5 per person in 2001. VA records show the Post found that in recent years, it has become common for veterans to submit claims for 20 or more disabilities. If you have them, what's the problem, right? These are diagnosed conditions. You're filing a claim for them. You have the condition diagnosed or you don't. You file for it or you don't. If you have 20, damn right, you should be filing for 20. The longer you're in service, I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it slow for the Washington Post. The longer you're in service, the more conditions you'll probably have to file for. All right. Achieving the 100% designation is not as simple as adding individual ratings together. To calculate a disability rating, VA starts by assuming the veteran is 100% efficient, meaning he or she is able-bodied enough to work and handle daily tasks. A disability award lowers that efficiency. If more disabilities are awarded, a VA applies them in order of severity to the remaining percentage of efficiency. The calculation for a vet with PTSD, sleep apnea, plantar fasciitis, and anxiety might look like this. And they kind of give their little number jargon. Under the law, veterans must prove their disabilities are connected to their military service to qualify for VA compensation, but they don't need to be caused by combat or war. No, they do not. Obviously, if they were, they are service connectable. And everything else, if it manifests within you or is caused during your time in service, you can file for that too. It's the way the laws are. We didn't write them. They're there. It's part of our benefits package. Nobody's taking advantage of anything by filing for something that is not caused by combat or war. And the funny thing is again, a few paragraphs up, the Washington Post is pointing fingers at rhinitis, presumable condition for Gulf War, and hypertension, presumable condition for Vietnam War. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Why are you using examples that contradict the message you're trying to say? Because you put zero effort in other than try to paint the picture that you're trying to paint. In 2001, veterans received benefits for a total of nearly 6 million disabilities. By last year, that number has risen to 41.7 million, a seven-fold increase. I'll tell you this too. I'm pretty sure that the number of shots and injections and pills and everything else that we have to take during our time in the military has probably also went up. I'd be very curious to see the differences between, say, 1960, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, 2020. The amount of injections and pills and all that stuff that we have to take on a annual basis, for example, I'd love to see what that cocktail has manifested into over the years. And with that, Washington Post, I would like to also see the list of potential side effects of each one of those drugs. Okay. All right, moving on. It says here that many veterans say they see the money and the perks as deserved compensation for their sacrifice to the country, not necessarily as markers of disability. And that's because the name is wrong. The VA absolutely needs to change the name of VA disability compensation to just VA compensation. Moving on. We're getting away from I'm disabled to what is your VA rating? Said Jonathan Gammer, manager of the Transition Assistance Program at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado Springs from 2022 until this year. When it comes to disability compensation, Gammer said the government-run transition program, which helps service members prepare to leave the military, has one goal: maximizing the payout for veterans. We're trying to get civilians who've left the military to understand that at a rating of 50% or higher, you get free license plates, Gammer said. 30% gets you veterans preference with the federal government, and so on. Important things. And this goes back to Dr. Gade, right? His big thing is getting folks employed, getting them good jobs. Well, he's had some good jobs in his life. He's worked some nice high-level government job. So veterans should go get rated if applicable. If you have ratings that would actually get you rated, go file for those ratings and get your 30% so you can have veterans preference when it comes to applying for jobs that people like Dr. Gade have got. Right? I mean, that's what makes sense to me. Let's move on. Some veterans say they are grateful to companies that have helped them navigate VA's disability system and boost their ratings. Of course they are. Because if you can't find a capable and competent free resource and you don't understand how to do it yourself, you need to lean on somebody. Army veteran Marcus O saw his PTSD rating rise from 50 to 70%, and his monthly paychecks jumped from $1,800 to $2,300 after paying a flat fee to a consulting company. Quotation here, every single person in the Army knows about disability, he said. 31 years of age, who left the service in 2016. He said, the mentality has become, all I have to do is hurt my ankle on a march or even working out off duty. This is the new culture. I kind of disagree. I would say, and oh, by the way, he left in 2016. So when I left the Army National Guard, that was in 2015. So just so we're on the same playing field here. I would say that it's more of, you better get that documented. Oh man, you really jacked that up. You should go get that documented. That's the culture. A culture of documentation. And thank goodness, because during my time in the National Guard, as a 81 and 120 millimeter mortarman, squad leader, standing there doing a live fire, and something flew in my eye and cut my eye, and I know it's going to come as a surprise. The medic goes, just take some Motrin and get some rest. Okay. So I do. The next day, it's horrible, and it's like I'm looking through a green swamp with one eye, and it's swollen, and it looks kind of like a cottage cheese type of a frumpy whiteness around it, and it looks like I'm looking through swampy water. And finally, I'm able to get out to a ophthalmologist who is like, wow, this is like really bad. And they give me these steroid drops and dilation drops, whatever. The steroid drops didn't really work because it was already so bad. And so they gave me a shot of steroids above the eyeball, which is the strangest thing. They lifted my eyelid and they took the shot and they stuck it right above my eyeball. And whatever, gave me a bunch of steroids. So in the meantime, my eyeball's like ripping apart on the inside. So now I got this snow globe eyeball, which is pretty fun, and a thing called recurrent iritis. So it's kind of like a cold sore and painful, and it's not that fun. Anyway, so thankfully, I got it all documented, right, while I was in, because boy, that would be hard to go back. So the culture has shifted to document your injuries and illnesses. That's the culture shift. Way different. And I could just imagine that even now today, when I was active duty in the Marine Corps, 93 to 97, it was definitely do not document anything. You're fine. Rub some dirt on it. Let's move. Medical, what do you need to go to? Come here. You're fine. Let's go. So, times, I'm sure, have changed some. And I'm sure that in today's world, you can get things documented a little easier. But I'm pretty sure that there's still some stigma on don't go to medical, that type of stuff. Anyway, moving on. Public debate over the consequences of that culture shift is rare and has ignited political pushback or backlash. When Donald Trump, then the president-elect, tapped Pete Hegseth to become defense secretary last year, liberal veterans groups attacked him by circulating a 5-year-old clip of the Fox News host, a former Army officer, criticizing some veterans for seeking disability payments when they don't really need them. And I agree. It's not a matter of need. It's not a matter of if you need it or not. Too many people have already self-segregated out of it due to stigma and shaming. So don't think, I got a $35,000 a year job and, I'm driving a 1983 Civic. I have mac and cheese packets, in the cabinet and it's okay. I'm making it. I don't really need it. You know what? That's the wrong attitude. If you have any conditions that manifested during your time in service or are a result of your time in service in some way, then you need to explore filing a claim. Don't let anybody shame you out of your earned benefits. You keep hearing earned because they are. During a confirmation hearing in January, Democratic senators, I don't even know what the word is. They hammered Hegseth for the remarks. He didn't walk back these comments, but told lawmakers every veteran should have rapid access to all the benefits that they've earned, and I agree with that. To chronicle the transformation of VA's disability system for a safety net for wounded warriors into one of the federal government's most expensive entitlement programs, Post reporters visited military bases in North Carolina, Colorado, and California, interviewing veterans and key players contributing to the wave of claims. In military classrooms, the Post observed representatives from Veterans of Foreign Wars, one of the oldest veterans service organizations chartered by Congress, urged troops nearing the end of their enlistment to complete paperwork and medical exams so they could collect disability checks as soon as they hung up their uniforms. That day, almost everyone there was medically fit for duty. Again, this goes back to the let me not say anything. Let me not go to medical. Let me just rub some dirt on it, pretend it never happened. Okay. Great. That gets you through while you're there, but you're shooting yourself in the foot. And the message is learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make them. Go document any injuries or illnesses that you have. And oh, by the way, the VA has set up a benefits delivery at discharge, meaning that you are able to file a claim prior to discharging from the military. If anywhere between 3 to 6 months prior to your discharge, you can file a claim. The idea is, yes, as you're transitioning out, hopefully within a few months of getting out, you will start to receive your disability compensation. Why is that important? Well, one, if you qualify for it, it's going to help you. They treat it like it's something that is illegal to do. They are shaming veterans, and they're shaming them so hard in hopes that they will self-segregate out of filing for things that they would rightfully qualify for. The one thing that I heard more often than not is, I wish I would have known sooner. This is as a former accredited veteran service officer working with thousands of veterans who didn't know what was available. Moving on, one reporter traveled to Black Hills of South Dakota and observed VA officials held a pop-up benefits clinic at a crowded motorcycle rally and coaxed Harley-riding veterans to file claims on the spot. Coaxed. Good. Hey, did you serve in Vietnam? Hey, do you have hypertension? Do you have diabetes? Do you have ischemic heart disease? Look, you need to file right now. Absolutely. Those are all presumptive conditions for Vietnam. Now, not that I'm correlating Vietnam veterans with Harley riders, but there's some of you out there. Just saying. I got to braid my beard I'll be honest. I sold 2 motorcycles. I don't really ride anymore. I miss it. But when I did ride, I'd have to braid this thing up. So anyway, man, those were the days. All right. Finally, another reporter crossed the vast potato fields near Blackfoot, Idaho, to visit the bunker where Combat Craig recorded hundreds of his popular YouTube videos, and to learn more about the murky past of the industry pioneer. Federal law is supposed to protect veterans from being gouged by lawyers or agents who file disability claims on their behalf. Claims agents must be accredited by the VA and can charge fees only when handling appeals. In recent years, however, more than 100 unaccredited for-profit firms have entered the field by exploiting a legal loophole, the Post found. These businesses contend that the law allows them to provide advice and educational materials to veterans for a fee, typically between $5,000 to $20,000. Don't do that. Evidence-based VA claims, $13.99 will help you. as long as the veterans submit their claim forms to the VA themselves. Unaccredited advisors say they provide a valuable service to veterans frustrated by VA's bureaucracy. For years, the department has struggled to clear a backlog of hundreds of thousands of overdue disability claims. And I'll tell you, at least I could speak for myself and our organization. We do provide a service, and we do provide some clarity and some understanding, and to have a second set of eyes and to be able to talk somebody through their current situation, to understand what's available and what's not in a very truthful, methodical way. The disability system has become even more difficult for veterans to navigate, said Jeff Eller, spokesperson for VA Claims Insider, in an email. The company, one of the first to break ground in the industry, typically charges 6 times the amount of any monthly increase to the veteran's disability check. So disability goes up $2,000 per month. They get $12,000. Evidence-based VA claims, $13.99. We call it a day. Moving on, a quotation. If America is willing to send men and women to war, then the nation has a solemn duty to fully support them when they return home, Eller said. That is why the VA exists and why VA Claims Insider works every day to educate and empower veterans who are too often left behind by a system that has failed them. Critics deride the unaccredited consultants as claim sharks and say they exploit veterans by pocketing a large cut of their disability compensation because many charge on a contingency basis. The companies have a financial incentive to exaggerate the seriousness of their clients' conditions, a practice that is helping to fuel the skyrocketing number of veterans with 100% ratings. VA officials have cautioned veterans to avoid for-profit companies and tried to limit their influence. From 2017 to 2024, VA lawyers issued warning letters to 140 unaccredited groups and individuals accusing most of illegally charging veterans and acting as unaccredited representatives, according to documents the Post obtained as part of a Freedom of Information Act against the government. Under the law, however, the government lacks the authority to file criminal charges or impose penalties against unaccredited claims companies for these actions, so the warning letters often go ignored. Exaggerating claims routinely slip through VA's benefits system, even though watchdogs have raised red flags about potential fraud since 2012. Veterans typically file their claims along with questionnaires that medical providers fill out to determine if the disability is service-connected. In 5 separate audits and investigations, VA Office of Inspector General and the Government Accountability Office warned that the questionnaires, which are available online, are vulnerable to fraud. The most recent warning came in 2024 report in which the Inspector General found that the medical forms present a significant risk of fraud. After reviewing a sample of claims, investigators determined that almost 70% of 31,900 contained one or more potential fraud indicators, such as signs of alteration or the assignment of a 100% disability rating without sufficient medical documentation. Claims processors, investigators noted, were not required to authenticate any of the information on the questionnaires. Many claims reviewers at VA did not even know they could refuse to approve a case if they believed the medical form was fraudulent, the report concluded. Sorry, I'm moving around so much. My back is killing me, so I'm like leaning on the desk and I got to move. So here we are. We would figure the scams out, recalled Jay Brewer, who served as a meteorologist with the Marine Corps for 3 decades before taking a job in 2018 processing claims for the VBA, the division of the VA that handles the disability compensation in Louisville area. But there was no way to refer them to anyone in management, said Brewer, who left at the end of 2020. There wasn't any interest in correcting them. Some unaccredited firms are large, sophisticated businesses that employ dozens of staff members and refer veterans to affiliated medical advisors. Others are smaller operations with flamboyant presences on TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube. There's VA Claims Academy, whose dapper cravat-wearing founder, Air Force veteran Jordan Anderson, advertises a 3-step VA claim formula that gets auto-approved on YouTube. In one video from 8 months ago, he called PTSD the easy button of VA claims, explaining that even if you are decades removed from the stressor event, even if you have no records at all, even if you have no proof, it's easily turned into a winning claim. The company didn't respond to a request for comment. There's VA Claims Insider with more than 155,000 subscribers on YouTube, whose founder, Air Force veteran Brian Reese, promotes 3 ways to get VA disability for obesity and how to crush your VA C&P exam for PTSD. His website also dispenses tips on obtaining payments for alopecia, tension headaches, and bone spurs. The Post analyzed more than 3,400 videos on TikTok and YouTube posted by major veteran claims influencers. One of the most common words featured on the videos is 100, a reference to the sought-after maximum disability rating. It showed up more than VA claims, VA disability, diagnosis, and compensation. Tactics to game the system are passed around on social media and message boards where thousands of veterans gather. A subreddit called r/veterans benefits has more than 200,000 active visitors each week and features a weekly thread of success stories. U.S. Veterans Network, an affiliated server on the social platform Discord, hosts more than 5,500 members who share strategies to boost their ratings. My 10% plantar fasciitis was changed to panis 50%, and it put me at 100%. PNT, so excited. A user wrote in June about his claim for flat feet. Combat Craig posted his first video on YouTube in 2019 and rapidly built a following with his folksy, tough love persona that emphasized a mistrust of government authority. I'm not accredited with the VA, or I couldn't be giving out the info I give you as they'd muzzle me, he says in a text accompanying some of his videos. Not true. My message has been the same, accredited and not accredited. Unlike larger businesses that entice veterans with comprehensive offers to help them prepare claims, Combat Craig dispenses advice on how to do it yourself with minimal assistance. He also charges less for services, $189.95 for claims coaching for those still on active duty, and $599 to $999 for a letter from a medical expert establishing an ailment's connection to military service. Yet, like others online, Combat Craig, who again has passed away, isn't all that he seems. For starters, his real name, they say was. Is that an indication that they know that he's passed away? Maybe. For starters, his real name was Louis Bauer. Originally from Southern California, Bauer worked odd jobs as a blogger and as a writer for a skateboarding magazine before he improbably discovered his niche as a disability expert on YouTube, according to people who knew him. His moniker obscured another more embarrassing truth for someone in his line of work. An abbreviated less than stellar military career. Records show the Air Force kicked him out after 3 years following a string of reprimands and other disciplinary infractions. Bauer enlisted as a 20-year-old in 1988, though he described himself as a Desert Storm combat veteran in his videos. Air Force personnel records show that during the 1991 Gulf War, he was stationed at Air Base in Turkey in a support role. Air Force records list his last role as a detail specialist, a catch-all duty assignment for menial jobs such as apprentice cook or meat cutter. It is unclear what his duties entailed. Well, he qualified as a Gulf War veteran because he was based in Turkey. The Post found no evidence that Bauer, Combat Craig guy, served in combat in Iraq no evidence that he served in combat in Iraq or Kuwait, where the war unfolded. His sister, Brandy Anderson, confirmed in an interview that he remained in Turkey during the war. By his own admission, Bauer often got into trouble by reporting late for guard duty, failing inspection, and talking smack to superiors. My attitude was F you, he said in a video posted 4 years ago when he was drummed out of the Air Force in September of 1991. Personnel records show he held the second lowest enlisted rank in the service. Soon after, he met a budding entrepreneur from Florida, Craig Miller, while taking a video editing course. In 2019, he and Miller launched the Combat Craig website. He was the combat, I'm the Craig, Miller, the company owner, said in an interview. Miller said the company has helped many veterans petition for generous disability awards. We have had a lot of happy people who have not filed for compensation for years at 70, 80, 90%, he said. The same year the website launched, Bauer moved to Blackfoot, an eastern Idaho town that bills itself as the potato capital of the world. Divorced with no children, he bought a small modular home and plastered the exterior with whimsical R-rated signs about skateboarding, firearms, and military culture. To record his videos, he set up a studio in the basement, which he affectionately referred to as his bunker. From there, he produced and posted his videos every week, and sometimes daily, for the next 6 years. Then, on the night of August 11th, the Bingham County Sheriff's Office responded to an emergency call at his property and found him dead at the bottom of the outdoor concrete steps leading down to his bunker. He was 57 years old. So, I'm just thinking here that this was an ad to the original, because it seems like it was being spoken as though he was still alive. So then once they got ready to post this, they thought, oh my gosh, they found out that he was dead, and then they went from there. All right, so let's move on. So then a woman at the scene told deputies that she and Barr, whom she had met the previous day at a party, had smoked meth that night, according to an incident report obtained by the Post. The woman said she was using the bathroom when she heard a loud crash. Detectives initially investigated Bauer's death as a possible homicide before concluding it was accidental and he had fallen down the stairs and fractured his neck. The coroner found no signs of foul play according to the incident report. The Combat Craig website posted a statement mourning his death. Louis was a pioneer who brought affordable VA disability claims education to the masses in a world formerly populated entirely by greedy VA claim sharks on one end and ineffective, sometimes clueless, veteran service organizations on the other. This statement read, "With fierce determination, Louis navigated the maze of VA claims and services, offering not just guidance but genuine empathy." In a sign of how cutthroat the disability claims industry has become, a rival influencer seized on Barr's death to disparage the Combat Craig brand, which continues to post videos with footage of Barr. Others hinted at the government cover-up. His fans lamented his death and credited him for their coveted 100% disability ratings. I hope the government didn't take him out for all the help he was giving folks to battle them. One supporter said on Facebook, "Rest in peace, I got my 100% a week ago because of your videos and advice." My goodness, this thing just keeps going. All right, I'm going to cut it there. If I can't stand anymore. With that, thanks for watching. I appreciate you very much. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.